Hello, I'm Jake, and it's Bible-y time.
Hello, everyone. Hannah here. Welcome to another episode of the Bible study. Hey, if you didn't know, we're changing up our schedule and we're doing daily uploads. So that's why this is the first Bible episode in this style. So basically, what we decided to do, and we talked about this in a previous Bible episode, we asked you guys, hey, Bible episodes have been coming out very slowly because we're very busy. We've been doing stuff on Twitch and other places. Would it be okay if we started doing Bible studies without the images on the screen? That way we can just get them out, and that way you can get 2 a week instead of one like every month or every other month or something like that. The comments seem to overwhelmingly find that to be better than, getting 4 Bible episodes a year. So we will be back to very regular Bible episodes. We're filming 2 of them today. This will be one of them. So
Yeah.
that's the stylistic change that you're going to be seeing in this episode.
And also, both of us will have incredibly creaky devices that we can't not use. So get over that.
I gotta move it around. I don't know why.
It's an apparatus, and we need to. So today we are discussing the parable of the sower, which is that's all the kids think this is the hottest parable right now. It's very kids are making the TikToks about it. There's no one cares about this. I don't know. We're doing it anyway. We're pressing forward. We're gonna do the parable of the sower. It's right after Jesus is chilling next to the lake. He's got all those fans, and then he goes. He's always got a genuine disdain for everybody that listens to him, even though it's his whole fucking goal. You ever notice that? How he's always like, don't fucking follow me. And then they follow him. He's like, well, I'm going to drop some big knowledge on you then, if you're going to stick around.
Sure. He seems annoyed. It's the duality, You gotta, I was born to be a savior, but I don't want to, if you're making the Jesus movie, that's what you do. You have him be conflicting.
Reluctant hero.
It's like a Superman movie. You got to have him struggle with like, oh, I got to be this hero. Or if you're a hack fraud like Zack Snyder, then you just directly bring in Jesus imagery.
Well, in 9/11 imagery.
That was maybe accidental. I don't know if you thought that through.
Accidental. There's no way that was accidental. You don't. Anyway.
It's okay. Steppenwolf is pointy now, though. The movie. Don't worry, the movie was definitely terrible specifically because Steppenwolf didn't have pointy armor, but now Zack Snyder, this is in the old version where we would have put up a picture of Steppenwolf, but Google this. The Snyder cut version of Steppenwolf is just pointy.
Yeah.
Why is that a change he decided to make?
Because that's what the kids like. He's a big fan of is it Seth MacFarlane? The guy that did Spawn. He's also
Todd McFarlane.
Todd, he likes the pointy stuff too. He's very into pointies. Anyway, you know who else is into pointies?
Jesus,
as he dies on the cross, but we're not there yet. So we have to power through so we can get to the pointies and hammer that real good. So, we're going to do the parable of the sower in Matthew chapter 13. That same day, Jesus went out of the house and sat by the lake. Such large crowds gathered around him that he got into a boat and sat in it while all the people stood on the shore. Again, acting like this, I mean, this is pretty much exactly how the end of the Donald Trump story goes, right?
Where he gets in a boat and listen to him speak from a boat.
Again, this is a parable, so stick with me. His last sort of rallies they did before he lost the election to Joseph Biden, who garnered 6 million more votes and a 306 electoral vote win. That happened. Before Donald Trump lost, he did some rallies, and the rallies he did, He was very far away from everybody. They all had COVID and were COVID spreaders. / also he left many old people. His entire campaign, they had like buses that contracted in, and then they didn't pay the bus drivers, so the bus drivers left, and the Trump administration left. And then there were just a bunch of people stranded on an airport airstrip, and like a dozen old people died.
Yeah.
This is the same.
I want to clarify, though. I want to correct you, because you said Trump's final rallies. Let's be clear. If Donald Trump...
Final effectual rallies.
Okay. I would
fine.
bet money within 2 months of Joseph Biden's inauguration, Donald Trump will be holding rallies for his 2024
Well, yeah,
run.
rallies, but they're going to have to be in, like, the Ukraine or somewhere where he can't be extradited.
Oh my God, no, Donald Trump is never going to face any consequences for any of his actions or crimes. Rich people don't get in trouble in this country. They don't. No. If you fuck over rich people, like you're Bernie Madoff or you're someone who's, then sure. Donald Trump hasn't fucked over
He's
enough
fucking
rich
over
people.
Deutsche Bank. That's who I think he's scared of, not the American government. Anyway, which would be hilarious, by the way. So, Jesus had the biggest and best crowd on this beach. It was probably a private beach. He probably owned part of a share of it, so he could make some money off the side. And then he told him many things in parables, saying, I guess this is the first parable. A farmer went out to sow his seed. As he was scattering the seed, some fell along the path, and the birds came up and ate it. Some fell on rocky places where it did not have much soil. It sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow. But when the sun came up, the plants were scorched, and they withered because they had no root. Other seeds fell among thorns, which grew up and choked the plants. Still other seeds fell on good soil, where it produced a crop 100, 60, or 30 times what was shown. Whoever has ears, let them hear. You know what would be more impressive? Is if Jesus
People without ears hearing?
Well, yes. Okay, sure. But also, if Jesus was like, farming, let me tell you about that. That's just gonna get weird. We're gonna have big fucking machines that do the crops, and so one man is gonna be able to do acres of farming. No. As the omnipresent and omniscient God he still is talking about, how when you walk your single field and you have to hand drop your seeds. That's pretty boring.
I think you're being very literal with what is. But we didn't even explain what a parable was. I guess I assume everyone
He's trying
knows.
to teach a lesson here.
Right. I assume everyone knows, but I went to religious school. I guess I should clarify. If you don't know, a parable is basically like a fable, a little story you tell with a moral lesson. It's not literally meant to be true. So this story is Jesus saying, "Let me give you a metaphor for how a thing is, so I can explain something better."
The interesting thing about the metaphor is, though, like Socrates or Aristotle, the great thinkers of our time, they usually just leave it there, and it makes you think, because it's like it deals with paradoxes, or it deals with like a lesson, and the way you speak it is concise, but also it uses like sort of tricks of language to make you go, oh, I am smarter now. These are shitty, because he goes, here's some things I say, and then always in these stories, either he will be prompted to give the answer, or he will unprompted give the answer. Someone will likely go, what's the answer to that? And he'll go, well, you see, this is what it symbolizes. It's
I would argue that's somewhat of the difference between a religious parable and a philosophical parable.
I know.
And now, in fairness,
just poor
philosophical parables also can be very pointed and try and point you in certain directions.
100%.
The allegory of the cave is not meant you to feel very secure in your view of reality, right? It's pointing you towards a philosophical direction. But religious parables particularly are going to be, here's the lesson, because that's the entire point. Especially considering religion is sort of written, Okay, it's written towards the lowest common denominator. Your peasants need to understand what's going on. Everyone needs to be on the same page. All the people who are speaking from the pulpit all around the country.
I'm just saying, this is
need to be on the same page.
This is post allegory of the cave.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like I had more higher expectations. They're dashed though. My expectations are shit. The disciples came to him and asked, "Why do you speak in parables?" And he replied, "Because the knowledge of the secrets of the kingdom of heaven has been given to you, but not to them. Whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them. This is why I speak to them in parables." He only wants the smarts in heaven, which is fine. Though seeing, they do not see. Though hearing, they do not hear or understand. In them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah. I feel like this exact thing came up, I could be wrong before, but you will be ever hearing but never understanding. You will be ever seeing but never perceiving. For his people's heart have become calloused. They hardly hear with their eyes. They have closed their eyes. Otherwise, they might see with their eyes, hear with their ears. Oh, I said eyes instead of that. They will hardly hear with their ears. They will have closed their eyes. Otherwise, they might see with their eyes, hear with the ears, understand with their hearts, and in turn, I would heal them. But blessed are your eyes because they see, and your ears because they hear. For truly I tell you, many prophets are righteous people longed to see what you see, but did not see it, and hear what you hear, but did not hear it. Because, again, you're talking in riddles to a bunch of people who eat root vegetables solely. Like their teeth.
I was gonna say, are root vegetables like somehow an indicator?
No, you're just not getting enough of the stuff that you need for your brain to operate. You're not getting the fats. You're not getting the they've I don't know, they're malnourished people that live in an uneducated land. At least right here they are. Anyway, these are the rubes of the Mediterranean. And he is like, you know what? But you also have to. This is a little upper class bullshit right here from Jesus.
I'm just curious the role of metaphor in regard to teaching groups of people, because I try and think, and human beings I think do have like a base level of reasonability to an extent, although human beings are like really dumb, emotional animals.
Reasonability in 2020?
No, but I'm thinking, like, how integral is it to explain something to someone at this time period with a story as opposed to just telling them something? Like, what's the efficacy, considering... I'm just thinking, like, okay, in 2020, people are already pretty stupid. People are pretty stupid. I'm including myself in this. I'm not saying I'm above other people. We're all very, very stupid people, right? And there's people out there who believe, like, QAnon and Satanist bullshit and a bunch of other crazy stuff. So let's assume that people today are smarter than people, you know, in this time period. How hard is it to teach them literally any lesson that you got to be like, all right, so there's this guy, he's got seeds. You literally, I'm imagining like the movie Idiocracy, where he's trying to explain things to them, but they just don't get it. So he's got to like make it as concrete as possible. Okay, so there's a guy with seeds. The seeds, he throws them. You know how you have seeds? You all farm to live. You subsistence farm. So, you know, seeds. We take seeds. You know what I mean?
Right. The best I can tell is the first half of this is him, I don't know, maybe dog whistling his heretical belief. But again, like I'm about to read, he's just gonna be like, "Here's what all that means." So it doesn't really stand up to scrutiny. So I don't really know. It seems like a person that wants to feel smart, and then you know tells everybody else what they mean. It seems very wanky.
The explanation is strictly for the benefit of the reader. Jesus, who I think existed, probably did tell parables, and this may have been one of them. I doubt at the time where Yeshua, the actual living person, told this story to people, I doubt he then said, and here's what it means. I think that's there entirely for the benefit of the reader
I suppose,
of this,
but
and when they actually wrote this shit down.
as a Christian reading the gospel, when it's in quotes like this, that's not what you're reading. So I mean, like, I don't know. It literally says, and here we go, quote, "Listen to what the parable of the sower means," and then he does. When anyone hears the message about the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil ones come and snatch away what was sown in their heart. The crows, I guess. This is the seed sown along the path. The seed falling on rocky ground refers to someone who hears the word, at once receives it with joy. But since they have no root, they last only a short time. When trouble or persecution comes because of the word, they quickly fall away. The seed falling among the thorns refers to someone who hears the word, but the worries of his life and the deceitfulness of wealth choke the word, making it unfruitful. But the seed falling on good soil refers to someone who hears the word and understands it. This is the one who produces a crop yielding 160 or 30 times what was sown. So that's the end of that. But again, putting it in the context of an omniscient God, that means, like, yeah, we understand there's going to be some collateral damage insofar as eternal damnation is concerned, and that's fine. These are the people that are not going to hear the word. Maybe communicate it better? Question mark? Nope, impossible. They have to. We're gonna confuse them. I only want the smarts.
I think a lot of the problem with this is more general. This doesn't even have to be about this topic, but I've been thinking about it. I think the idea of God as omnipotent and omniscient, as Christians consider him today, not only obviously it's problematic. We've talked about that, but I also wonder the recency of that concept. Like, obviously, people back in the day thought God was powerful, more powerful than any mortal or anything. I mean, but like we see in the Old Testament, like there are limitations placed on God multiple times. The iron chariots thing, like, oh, God couldn't stop them because their chariots are made of iron, and other things like that pop up.
About he has to do a rainbow to remind himself of stuff. Like, yeah,
sure. So
shows anger.
I would imagine stuff like that's more an indictment of the modern Christian conception of God as literally like omnipotent and omniscient to extents that we cannot even fathom. It doesn't make sense as a concept, and it certainly doesn't make sense in the context of what is happening and being said in the Bible.
Well, I think it was a response to the Hellenistic belief of the people in charge of the space, because the Hellenistic gods, whether you use the Roman or the Greek names, the Zeuses, the Jupiters, the Marses, the what's his Greek version of Mars? The god of war. I don't know.
Ares?
That's the one. Those are very fallible human figures, and it could have been out of necessity to claim supremacy of godhood. Because as you see, like Hill, he was a vessel that they took through the fucking desert at one point. They encounter other gods, and then he slowly gains like these. He levels up. he gains these certain attributes. They just start talking. They just in the Bible, and we read the whole fucking Old Testament. They just start saying he is everything, like the whole time. This starts around. They start giving him really big omnipotence around the time of Proverbs. Like they start saying like, "Oh, God knows the way. God is my shepherd, like he'll do whatever it needs." You know what I mean? Like he gets really, really powerful around them according to their own belief in that. And so I think, I don't know, it makes sense that the proto version of God, which is the Old Testament God, is this more human. Like he's a little wrathful because they had an unstable climate. They were more nomadic. They didn't have like big city settlements or anything like that, like Jerusalem. They had like a more volatile living space because they'd be attacked constantly, stuff like that.
I'm gonna draw a comparison that I think is an apt one. Mm-hmm. We have what I'm gonna refer to as a Dragon Ball Z power creep problem with God.
Yes, Cell Saga is where that shit should have stopped, and then they do Frieza, who has like 55 forms, and then they do. Or no, Frieza comes first. And then there's like Majin Buu. No one likes Majin Buu.
I also feel like the the power creep comes over time, and I think the simpler the worldview of a culture, it seems to me, the simpler the god would have to be in order to explain said worldview or to fit into that worldview. As society developed and changed over time and people began to understand how complicated the world and the universe is around them, the more complicated in return their version of God had to be in order to compensate for that. Like if all you know is I get up, we move because we're nomadic. We move today. Oh, we set down a new camp. We found food. We go to sleep. We wake up. You know what I mean? Yeah. You could have a pretty simple conception of God. Oh, God who brings, the sun and the rains and the, stuff like that. Whereas as you get introduced to other cultures and you get introduced to complex machinery and get introduced to political stuff like, oh my God, now the Romans have taken over our land.
And how do you then how do you reconcile the fact that you're taken over by Romans?
Right.
So it's very interesting. I think personally the multi-god structure of the specifically how the Greeks sort of treated the gods, it made sense. Like the gods sort of had like a pact among themselves to where they couldn't like directly interfere with human interaction, but it was sort of like a Mexican standoff in that way. Like if you stepped over the bounds, the other gods would retaliate, and the gods weren't immortal.
Sure.
I mean, they were immortal like elves are immortal, where you could live forever, but you could be killed. And so I think that made a little bit more sense as far as how the structure is, because then, just from an intellectual standpoint, even if you're a theistic believer, which, Greeks were later on, especially as the Peloponnesian Wars start happening and stuff like later in their history. Not necessarily religious people. They're just sort of like, there's definitely groups of them, but like Socrates, for instance, probably not a religious fella, and part of his charge was atheism. So stuff like that. I think it's interesting because you can sort of pass off the problems of existence, evil and chaos and all the randomness that goes into it with, the gods just aren't they are not manipulating this world. They are fallible. Norse gods are very similar to that, where it's just like, there you are, here you are, do your best. Come to Valhalla if you happen to die brutally. So, I don't know, interesting stuff. Whereas, obviously Jesus and Yahweh, they won overall. They're the most popular. They win that. I don't know how. They're the least appealing.
That's depressing to me. Not even because of the like the real world consequences of like, oh, there's a religion
that's not cool.
They're boring. Yeah. They're so boring. It's like they encountered the existence of the belief of the Greek gods and all these interesting pantheons, and they're like, oh, well, ours is just the bestest at everything.
Right?
God is the ultimate Gary Stew, and I hate
it's the Superman problem.
He's just a boring character. Yeah. I don't know.
I agree.
Even in and there are Christian mythology adaptations that I really like Prince of Egypt is a really great movie, but God's characterization is so boring, and it's just like, I am that I am. I am milquetoast and all-powerful, which means I have no personality that is discernible. It's, I don't know.
So I'm reading out of Mark right now. Mark chapter 4 is the next time Parable of the Sower pops up. It's not that different. Do you want me to read the whole thing? It's really not that different. Luke, trying to see besides some they don't go into the Isaiah prophecy as much in Mark and Luke. Is pretty much the whole thing. I'll tell you what. I'll read. I'll read it, but I don't know if we need to. I'm actually more interested in reading Luke.
Sure.
So just I guess take my word for it. There's not really much going on in Mark 4. However, the interesting thing is, and the reason we have this is, Matthew 13 continues on with parable of the weeds and then mustard seed and yeast, which are I mean, he's just building off of this same parable. But Mark doesn't have that. It immediately has lamp on a stand, and then it has a seed and mustard seed thing, and then I don't know. The timelines are super weird in all of these, and then there's lamp on a stand again in Luke, and then it takes 5 more chapters to get to the mustard seed yeast thing. I don't know, but Mark chapter 4, as far as the parable of the sower, pretty much the same. He goes through a lake. He talks to people. He gets onto a boat to get away from them. He tells the story. It's the same. Then his people ask, the 12 ask, what the fuck? And he goes like, well, the smarts are good and the dumbs are bad. And then he continues to talk about give us the answer, and then he does. But in Luke, when it begins, after this, Jesus traveled about from one town and village to another, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom of God. The 12 were with him, and also some women who had been cured of evil spirits and diseases. Mary, called Magdalene, first appearance, from whom 7 demons had come out. That is a demon bukkake. That's definitely what that is. Come out, right? Am I getting that wrong? You're making a face, not a disgusted face. You're making a this looks like a technical face. Like actually, are you actuallying me about this?
Mary Magdalene is stereotypically cast as a former prostitute, but I believe that's based on a misconception. Like, I know that's not necessarily what you were referencing, but it just made me think about that.
No, it
that's
wasn't.
What the face was.
I forgot. Yeah, no, I forgot that she was supposed to be a prostitute, which is interesting. I wonder, did they bring that up?
No, I think it's a misconception. I think people are conflating. There's another woman who Jesus meets who's a former prostitute, and for some reason Mary Magdalene gets confused for her. I could be wrong, but if I remember correctly, I think that's it.
Well, either way, sex work is valid. Good job, Mary.
Sure.
So along with that is also Joanna, the wife of Chusa, the manager of Herod's household, Susanna, and many others. These women were helping to support them out of their own means. So these women start following Jesus, and apparently there were many others besides the 3 that were named. And then out of their own like bank accounts or whatever they had, the equivalent, they're supporting Jesus and his friends. They have groupies. But strangely, the groupies pay for stuff, which is not how groupies work. Okay. That's the ideal groupie. Eat your heart out, White Snake or whatever.
That's an old reference.
White Snake? Who else had groupies?
No, there are probably modern bands with groupies that aren't 30 years old.
Nah. I like the old band idea. Poison. Every road has its home.
I don't think anyone's hanging out with Bret Michaels anymore. That's untrue. I don't think anyone under 40 is hanging out with Bret Michaels as a groupie anymore, but fine.
You want some floppy titties that were inside a leather jacket moments ago that taste like cigarettes?
No.
That's why you join Poison. All right, well, whatever. Each their own. While a large crowd was gathering and people were coming to Jesus from town after town, he told this parable. A farmer went out to sow his seed, and he was scattering the seed. Some fell along the path. It was trampled on. The birds ate it up. Some fell on rocky ground. When it came up, the plants withered because they had no good moisture. Other seeds fell among the thorns, which grew up with it, choked the plants. Still other seed fell on good soil. It came up and yielded a crop 100 times more than was sown. So by the time we get to Luke, he just decided on one number.
So farmers back in the day, did they just take a handful of seeds and regardless of whether or not it's near an arable field, they just like, there's all my seeds. Like, how about you don't waste those seeds? Like, this is, and I'll use the same parable back to someone who believes this. Like, okay, in this metaphor, God is the sower. He's trying to send the message to people. And you brought this up a little bit earlier. Is it not his responsibility as the person who's sowing the seeds to ensure that those seeds are planted in places where they can take root?
Just wanton seed throwing is the answer.
Like, wouldn't you blame him and not the seed for not taking in soil that is not, like, fertile?
It's what I would do.
Instead, the planter yells at the seed and burns it for eternity because that seed can't plant itself in an area that's not conducive to growth.
This parable implies so much agency to seeds.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't mean the parable seeds. I mean actual seeds. Like, do they think that, like, there's, like, the term bad seed is now, like, really... Like, are they actually just like, oh, shit, we just fucked that seed, I guess? And they're just like, I didn't plant it right, but I mean, just should have figured it out. That's interesting. Okay. Do you think they were... I mean, these are the same people that were like, I don't know, if you line up sticks a certain way, your cows are going to come out with stripes. So...
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't imagine they were particularly great botanists. When he said this, he called out, whoever has ears to hear, let them hear. His disciples asked him what the parable meant. He said, the knowledge of the secret of the kingdom of God has been given to you, but to others I speak in parables, so that though seeing they may not see, though hearing they may not understand. Thank you, Luke, for making that so much more succinct than it was before. That was way easier to read. He goes on. This is the meaning of the parable. The seed is the word of God. Those along the path are the ones who hear it, and the devil comes and takes away the word from their hearts, so that they may not believe what to be saved. So now they did not have the devil in the other two versions of this.
Right. It does, and including the devil here completely breaks the parable anyway, because then you'd have to change the parable and say, oh, I planted these seeds in perfectly fine ground, and then the devil came and he picked the seeds out and he threw them. Like, the metaphor breaks down when you try and add new elements to the metaphor.
Yeah, well, now he's saying it's the birds that ate it up, but before the birds were people that, like, didn't, like, agree or some shit. Anyway, so the devil is stealing your seeds, like he does. Those on rocky ground are the ones who receive the word with joy when they hear it, but they have no root. They believe for a while, but in the time of testing, they fall away. You were seeded on rocky ground, my friend. That's how it works. You're a rocky seed. And it's your fault. It's your fault you were planted on rocky ground.
Guess so.
You are to be blamed. The seed that fell among thorns stands for those who hear. But as they go on their way, they are choked by life's worries, riches, and pleasures, and they do not mature. But the seed on good soil stands for those with a noble and good heart, who hear the word, retain it, and by persevering, produce a crop. Again, that's all the farmer's job, not the seed's job. Again, you gotta. It's what they're for.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for the parable of the sower.
Yay!
Any parting words on the parable of the sower?
Not really. It's a pretty famous parable. I remember learning this in school. But again, yeah, there's tons of problems with it. The agency implied towards the seeds. And I understand the seeds are supposed to be human beings. But I would argue, similarly to the seeds, if you have a message and you're an all-powerful, all-knowing God, and you want everyone to believe this message, or if they don't, you're going to torture them for eternity, then why did you create a system in which they could not believe that in the first place? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
God can't figure out the perfect words to convince everyone at the same time, which makes him fallible.
Like, imagine this is a Black Mirror episode, and I create an entire universe in one of those, virtual reality things. Mm-hmm. And then I say, anyone who likes the color green is going to go into a different program after their character dies, where they're tortured and in horrible pain for eternity. You'd be like, why the fuck did you do that?
You made grass green.
Why did you do that? Why did you make that a factor in the program? Why did you create these beings just to torture them for eternity? Like I would rightfully be called a sick fuck and not, worshipped. It's just very strange.
It is incredibly strange. Well, that there's it for this one. Stay tuned for the next one. The next one we're gonna be talking about more weeds and mustard seeds and yeast, and then more stuff, and then maybe if we have time during it, we'll talk about lamps.
Hopefully we're getting to Jesus getting crucified soon. I'm very over the Gospels.
I have bloodlust at this point. I'm shaking. I need to those pointies. I need it back. I need Steppenwolf pointies to pierce his flesh. Okay, so if you enjoy the Bible studies, look forward to more Bible studies. If you don't like the Bible studies, then why are you here right now?
Sure.
There you go. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to our Twitches. Subscribe to our other channels where we do solo content. And then if you watch the solo content together, it's like a second channel where we're together.
I think that'd be pretty nonsensical. It would act like we'd just be talking past each other.
That is ideal.
Fine.
Yeah. Think about that. It's like there's some albums out there, you play them at a certain speed or backwards or something, you get secret messages. If you play our stream clips next to each other, there's secret codes within that. That's true.
Okay.
It's true. We have parables. So, we love your faces. Tune in for the next one. And if you don't, I'm going to seed your field or something. That sounded like a...
Yeah.
Yep.